recording as well. Okay, so in the last class what we was discussing, so we were discussing about the REST services, right? In the REST services we discuss about this one, right? The post, get, put, patch and delete, but high level, not in the detail, right? So that is the pending, right? We will discuss that thing. And after then we were discussing the JSON, I think. Let me open my requirement sheet. Where it is in the requirement, this one. Yeah, so we was discussing about the requirement, right? So in the requirement I think we were discussing about the JSON, correct guys, if I'm not wrong? Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So first let's discuss about the JSON. What did you mean by the JSON? After then we will discuss this very simple requirement. If this simple requirement get clear, then we will move to the mid-level requirement of the different project. Then that will get clear. Then we will move to some advanced level of the requirement. Okay. So first try to understand this one. Okay. Yeah. So there is one term, the JSON, JSON, JavaScript Object Notation. Okay. JSON is simple. It is the define the structure of a JSON message. It define the structure of the JSON message, right? So it's validating the API request and the response. So whatever you will write inside the body, let's suppose we have which workspace we have created.
V6.
Yeah, this one, right? So let me open. So here in the body we are passing the request. So this is known as a request. The if anything client is sending to the server, that is known as a request, HTTP request. And anything if you get it by the server, that is known as a response. Two different terms, do not get confused. If I am asking request, that means the client is sending that particular things to the server. Okay, if I'm saying response, then it means you are getting from the server. And same thing in the, sometime you will say, you will see that payload. So request is also known as a request payload. In the interview sometimes they will use some different term. What did you mean by the payload? The payload means when you connecting with the server, whatever the data, whatever the request, whatever the key and value you are passing to the server, that is known as a payload, right? So sometimes they will ask you, twist the question and they will ask you in different way. What did you mean by the payload? Payload is nothing but it is a request which we are sending to the server. Okay. So here the JSON is the very simple JavaScript object notation. It defines the structure of message. Whatever the things we will write it here, right? It defines, the server will easily understand if you write the JSON object here, right? So it can be used to validate API request and the response. So it is the request, right, in the form of JSON, right? When we connect with the server, so server will validate the JSON request, and after getting the response, again response will validate it that server is sending the correct format of JSON or not. So that's why I have written here, can use to validating the API request and response, right? The API request, it is in the correct form of JSON or not. The response which you are getting from the server, it is correct form or not, right? So, and the next point is it is lightweight and easy to read and write. So it's simple thing. Let's suppose you are creating anything, you working in the web service project, inside the REST API project, right? So you are creating any stuff, not only user, like creating any account, creating the income detail, creating the mortgage detail, creating the e-commerce site, right? Any detail you are trying to create, right? So it's simple, where you have to, this is known as a key and this is known as a value. So JSON object is a key value pair. Key and value pair, key and value. Here you can see, if you want to read this thing, can you can you easy to read or not? If you read this, this is the name, and corresponding the name, I am passing the name. Last name, this is the last name, corresponding to the last name you are passing the last name. Email ID, you are passing the email ID, the phone number and the phone number. It is easy to read or not, guys? Yes, it is easy to read, right? So give me a second. Last time, let me call this, not here. Guys, please be on time, and sharp 8:30, please join the class. Otherwise, I have to call everyone again, and then I don't want to anyone miss any of the class. Okay, so please join the call at 8:30 sharply. Maybe sometime I will late for 1 or 2 minutes, but you can join at 8:30. Okay, please. Okay, so it is the key value pair. Here you can see it is lightweight and easy to read and write. That's why the most of the industry, they are using the REST API. SOAP API, the SOAP service is less in the market because it is tough to maintain. It is tough to read. That's why even the client, the customer can easily read this thing. Right, so that's why the most of the company, they are preferable to use the REST API in his project. Actually, that's why the REST API is very famous in the market. It is easy to maintain, easy to read. It is a very lightweight, anyone can understand, even not only the developer and the tester. When your client also, your manager also, client to client also. Okay, so the JSON object in REST API, we are using the JSON object, JSON format, right? Now, the last point is it is integrate with most of the language. Let's suppose your project is working on Java, right? So you are working on the Java project, right? On the Java web service project, right? So in Java project, we can also integrate the JSON. You can also implement the JSON concept in C# also, in .NET also, in PHP also, in Angular also. In most of the language, we can easily integrate the JSON. Okay, that's why it is much more familiar and the famous in the market, right? So the first thing, when we have some format, when you writing the JSON object, we have to follow some format. Okay, the first format is, if you are writing the JSON object, if you are using anything inside the curly bracket, open curly bracket and close curly bracket, that is considered as a JSON object. JSON object, that you are trying to create the JSON object. If you are not using the curly bracket, that consider as it is not a JSON object. Okay, JSON object. Okay, so give me a second. Right now, next thing, let's suppose you are trying to create an account or trying to create anything. Let's suppose we have let me take one make my trip application. Okay, and here what you are trying to do, you are trying to search the flight. Okay, when you search the flight, so you will get the detail here, right? So and here, or we can also map this thing, the from, to, depart. We can also create the property here, depends on the project. Let me book the flight actually, and there you will see, if I go here, continue, I don't want the secure trip, let's suppose adult. Okay, here you can see, to book the ticket, you need the first name, last name, mail, that is gender, mobile number, the country code, the email ID, right? So let's create the JSON. I'm giving as an example. Okay, so what was the first name? Okay, let me take the key. This is known as a key. Okay, first name, right? And colon, the key start with the double quote and colon, and then the value. What value? Let's suppose I'm trying to book with Vikas name. Okay, so if there is next key is there, then you have to use the comma, right? When after then last name, right? So I will use the last name, right? And then here you can use okay, and we have one more property like gender. Okay, let me add the gender also, and let's suppose I'm adding like the male. Okay, and after then the mobile number and the email ID. Let me add one more property here, mobile number. Okay, and let me add the mobile number, right? I have added the mobile number. Right now let me add the another property, that is the email ID. Give me a second. Email ID. I have added the email ID, and you can put the email ID like info vikasa@gmail.com. Okay, this is my email ID. So you can see it here, control B. You can see it here. This is the key and this is the value. Key and value pair. One pair, second pair, third pair, fourth pair, and the fifth pair. Right? If there is any other key is there, then we have to use comma. Right? Now guys, you tell me what mistake I am doing here. You tell me what mistake, and you have to resolve the error message. Yeah guys, there are multiple error messages are here. You can see if you hover the mouse. Now first look at this example and tell me what mistake I am doing here. Is I am writing the correct JSON object? What format mistake I am doing here?
So after we cut, as there is a
comma. Okay, this issue get resolved, and then
and in last name there should be double quote.
Double quote, and then
Mobile number.
Mail comma.
Gender mail comma.
Mail comma. Okay, and then still error we have.
Colon after mobile number.
Sorry,
mobile number.
Mobile number to colon. Yeah.
Colon. Still we have the error message.
Email ID. Email should be in,
no comma after email ID.
Starting.
No comma after email ID, because that's the last.
Okay, last statement, right?
Oh, yeah.
So now you get the things what format we are using while writing the JSON object, because developer also following there when defining the schema, they are also following the same thing. They have to keep in mind we have to follow the JSON format, right? So right now we have discussed about the key. Now let's discuss about the value. Why we am writing here? Let's suppose I am taking here one value. Married is let's suppose I am taking one value, key is married. Okay, and here I am writing true, right, and put the comma, right? True, I am writing. Now let me take another one also. Uh, let's suppose I'm taking, yeah, remove this thing. Okay, right now. Okay, first discuss this thing. So you can see it here. Some in the first name I'm using the double quote here, and in the last name also, but in the mobile number I'm not using the double quote, and here in the is married I'm using the simple true. So why it is like that? Why I'm getting this error, sir?
Because of comma.
Okay, comma, right. Okay, then tell me why you can see the difference in the value.
Yeah, so because integers we don't need a double quote, we can have or we don't need to have. If you keep it as under double quotes, it is taken as string. If no, alphanumerics do not need a double quote.
Okay, let's try to understand. Yeah, correct. Let's try to understand this concept. Okay.
Data type.
So whenever you assign in the project, right? Let's suppose REST project, the client will provide you the requirement sheet, the mapping sheet, requirement sheet, right? Where they defined what are the key. So in your mind, you have the question why you are using only first name, last name, gender, mobile number, why not some other? Because this is your part of your requirement. The client will provide you the requirement sheet. In that requirement sheet they will mention this thing. If they mention some other key, then you have to use that particular key. When we discuss the mapping, then it will be more clear, right? First let's try to discuss this one. So in JSON we have the different JSON type, different types of the JSON type. Okay, let me open the notepad. In JSON we have the different type. If anything you are writing inside the double quote, if anything, let me remove this thing. If anything you are writing inside the, let's suppose API automation. Okay, so if anything you are writing inside the double quote, that is considered as a string. I'm only giving you this indication. Now you has to give me the answer. I'm writing couple of things and you will give me the answer. Is this a string or not? Okay. Give me a second. I'm writing a couple of things. Okay, and I'm writing couple of things. I'm writing a couple of things. Now, guys, tell me, the first one is a string or what data type?
String.
It is a string or not? Simple, tell me, yes or not?
Yes.
A string.
Yes.
And the second one?
Yeah, string.
Yes. String.
Also. And the third one?
String.
String.
And the fourth one?
Also string.
Also string. And fifth one?
Also string.
String.
Exactly. So no matter what you are writing there, if it is written inside the double quote, that consider as a string. Simple.
Yeah. Vishal, one query. If supposing
Yes, certainly.
any double quote comes inside our single quote, then will the string break?
You are asking like that.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
this thing will consider as a string.
Okay.
Right.
And
This
if
part is
supposing
known as
my
string.
book, myself, I will have apostrophe, right? So supposing
Let's suppose like that,
B
Vikas
health
and
and then Vikash book, yeah, like this.
okay.
This will
So
be
yeah, it
considered.
is considered as a string
Okay.
because in UK, US, sometime in the name they are using the this symbol, I think.
Yeah, single quote. Because in
Symbol.
Python, when the outers are single quote, we can change the single quote to double quote. And when
Okay.
the outer is double quote, we have to put it in the inside single quote. If no, it will break. The string breaks.
Okay. But here, if anything you are writing inside the double quote, that is considered as a string, right? So
Okay.
here the string is clear, right?
Yeah.
Now, this concept is clear. We have different types of data type, JSON types. A string is one of them. Now, the number. Now, the number. In the number, if you write any number, right, like 62, 23 or 9.8 decimal number or positive number, that is considered as a number. Okay. Now the Boolean value, what did you mean by the Boolean value? Boolean value have true or false. If it is true, then it is yes. If it is false, then it is no. So Boolean is one more JSON type. Okay, so here you can see I have used the Boolean is married. If I'm writing is married, that if I'm writing the true, that means yes, he is married. If I am writing here false, that means he is not married, right? So the Boolean is one of the data type, right? Now
Is it
null
case
is,
sensitive? True, false?
it depends. It depends how the developer are design in his coding actually. Okay, if they are written like that, right, it also valid. If they have written like that, if they are written like that, also valid. But it depends on the developer how they defined actually in his coding, right? Clear?
Clear.
We have the null, right? Null means
No value.
let's try to understand the null value. Uh, null value means you don't know what you have to put it here. So in that case, we are passing the null value. Okay, we will also discuss this thing. We will use in the JSON object, right? Now come to
One query
yes,
here.
sir,
In the string, if I put first of double quotes and no value, will that be null or space? Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
It will consider as a string first thing, and it will consider as a blank value, no
Blank
value something. If you giving some space, then it is no value, means a space value. Means if you are not passing anything, that consider as a nothing is there. If you pass the space, then there is something that is space.
The difference between this and null?
The difference between this and null is if you are writing here, if you are writing the values like that, like some space
No,
and
not without space, not without space. If no space.
without space,
Yeah.
like that.
Yes.
Okay, if you are writing this thing like that, that means that uh, the null, that means that you are, the values are there. The values are there. Let's suppose we have certain value like uh, mm, Vikas, Rahul, Vinay, right? We have some value, right? But 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 we don't know what to put. The things are not clear what to put here, right? So in that case, you can simply use this one. Okay, and something like there is some value but you don't want to pass anything. In that case, you can use null value. Clear?
Clear.
Clear, sir?
Yeah, I'm clear. Thank you.
So can you please repeat?
Okay, so if you are using simple string and you are not passing anything here, three terms we have three terms. first term, the simple double quote, and inside the double quote you are not passing anything. The second thing, double quote space and double quote. In the string we are passing space. And the third thing, null value. Okay, let's understand this three value. So the first value is, let's suppose we have this value. Inside this value, inside the list of this value, we are not, you don't know exactly what you have to put. You are confused. So in that case you can use this one, right? And in the case of blank, you are simply, you are passing the blank value. Simple, it's blank value, right? You are passing something, but it is a space. It is the space you are giving. And in the case of null, you have the value, but you don't want to pass anything. You simply pass the null thing. You don't want to pass anything. In that case, you can use null. Clear?
Okay.
Okay.
Because one query
Yes,
I
sir.
have in the first scenario, if we are do not passing any space or any thing, but if that field is mandatory, then it should be considered as a null, right?
No, if it
No,
is
error.
mandatory, and you are trying to connect with the server will return you the error message that it is a mandatory field. Let's suppose here in this case, if I am not passing the first name, if I am trying to continue, can you see the error message? It will not allow you to continue.
Okay. But if I
If it
want
is
to continue,
mandatory,
then
same thing we will also face in the REST API, which you can see it here.
okay.
Yes, sir. Tell
But
me
I
what you are
want
trying to say.
yes, but I want to I wish to continue. Then in that case, I want to add the value as a null, right? In that case.
No,
Yeah,
space.
if it
If
is
it is
mandatory,
mandatory,
you have
space.
to pass either space, or you have to fulfill the criteria, whatever the criteria we have for the first name. Okay, let's suppose developer has set some minimum criteria, at least you have to fulfill. Either it is a space or null, or you have to pass some value. It depends on the requirement. That minimum requirement you have to fulfill. Okay.
Okay.
Clear,
Thanks.
sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's come to this section, array. So let's try to understand the array here. Array means the group of same sequence of character. The group of same sequence of character, that is known as an array. If you go and learn the array in Java, we are using like that. If it is integer array, we are writing int is and data type, which we are using in the Java or C#, right? In any other language, int is one data type if you are declaring the int. And here, let's suppose number, right? I'm creating one array, inside that number array, and inside that I'm declaring the value, right? Here I can only store the number, right? Number. Okay, that is considered as a integer array. If you are using string, right? And here let's suppose name, right? And here you will go here and type let's suppose Vikas and Rahul, and let's suppose Vinay, comma. So it is an string array. It is an string array, right? So if you are defining anything, you can store only that particular thing, particular type. If you are defining the thing integer, right, you can store only integer value. If you are defining a string value, then you can store only integer. If you are here storing the number, you will get the compile time error. Okay, so let's suppose now the question is, I want to store both the things, the string also and the boolean also, integer also. In that case, you have to use the object. you have to use the object. Using the object, let's suppose object is an variable here, and we can store like that, because, okay, and here, comma, you can store 4 5 or boolean also. So using the object, you can store the multiple types, multiple data types object, multiple data types value. If you declare the things as a integer, then you can store only integer value. If you are declare the thing as a string, then you can store only the string value. If you are declaring the things as an object, then you can store the any type data type. If you go and check in the Google array in Java, okay, if you go and search array in Java, okay, let me take this example. Okay, here you can see in this is an array. Let me explain. Here you can see they have defined the integer array where they are storing the only integer thing, only integer value, right, in Java, right? So similarly, if you want to store the character, so you have to use char. And let's suppose we are declaring one variable, right? And we are storing the char value like that, char, right? You are storing the character value. Okay. Now the things is how you can. It is useful in the JSON object. The question is, array is clear. Array is used to store the same kind of character. If it is integer, then you can store integer. If it is string, then you can store the string. If it is the character, then you can store the character. If it is boolean, then you can store the boolean. Now, how this thing is useful in the JSON object. JSON object. So one thing you have to understand, why you are using the array concept, why the developer or the client is using the array concept. Okay, so what happened, let's suppose these all are the value we have, Vikas, Rahul and Vinay, right? Vikas, Rahul and Vinay. I want to store this value. I want to store this value, right? What I can do, I will create one string value. This is an string, right? And I will declare one variable name. Variable means to store the value. To store the value. So I'm declaring any variable here. Let's suppose name 1. And I am storing the name here, Vikas, right? Now, to store all this name Rahul and Vinay, I have to create the multiple variable. If you want to store the multiple name, then you are creating the multiple variable here. This is the variable, right? For the same kind of stuff, you are creating the multiple variable. Vinay. Right? So guys, to store the name, I want to store the name, right? So you are using the separate variable for that. Now let's take the daily life example. It's after then you will easily understand. I am taking, you have the fruit shop. You have the fruit shop and you are the shopkeeper of your fruit shop, right? You have multiples apples are there, multiples apple. Let's suppose you have 20 apple you have, okay, 20 apple you have, right? So what you are trying to do, you want to keep all the apple inside the box, right? So what you will do, for each apple you will take separate box, or inside the one box you can put it all? Tell me what would be your approach. Let me again explain the same.
Put it into the one
explain
box.
the question. Let me explain the same thing. Let me repeat the question. Okay. You have the multiple apple. Let's suppose 20 apples are there, right? You want to store all the apple inside the box, right? So if you are storing all the apple individually inside the one box and in another box, and then again take the third box and you storing the third apple, you will take the fourth box and you will store the fourth apple. So tell me, it only increasing the number of boxes. Agree? And
Yes.
it's unnecessary taking the consuming the space, right? It unnecessary consuming your space, right?
Yes.
Right? So if you, yeah, I can understand. If you have, let's suppose apple is there and mango is there, then in that case I can understand the apple you have to put it inside the box 1 and the mango you have to put it inside the box 2. That is the valid, because both are the different object. One is apple and one is mango. If you keep it inside the one box, then it will get mess up, right? It will get mixed up, right? So similar thing is here. The same thing here. Same thing here. If you want to store the name, right? Store the name instead of creating the separate variable. Separate variable. What you are doing here, we will create one array. We will create one array. How you can create one array? Define the data type, what data type it is, and then take the variable name. What variable name you want to take? Let's suppose v1. Variable name, it could be anything, but always try to put the valid one, which which have the make sense, so that everyone can understand. Let's suppose I am taking fruit. Let's suppose apple. Okay, and creating one, right? And creating one, right? Suppose apple 1, apple 2, right? And apple 3. Now you can see inside one apple box, inside one apple reference variable, I have stored all the the apple. So here you can see I have created only one, but here you can see you have created the 3. Similarly, if you are 10, 20, you will create more, right? So that is the use of array, where you can store the multiple object, and this array, who is deciding the data type? The client will decide, and they will discuss with the developer, with the coordination of the developer and the client. They will decide the thing, which data type we have to use for the particular property, okay. Now here, let's come to here, right? Array is clear, right? Now JSON object is clear. You can see the first name, the key and the value, and key and the value. What did you mean by the object? Object is key value pair. Object is key value pair. That is the object, key value pair, right? So now the question is, here what you have created here? Tell me, guys. This is the JSON object, and object means key value pair, right? So you have created one object here, the key value pair. right? Clear? Now let's try to understand what did you mean by the array. What did you mean by the array? Okay, so here I'm taking one thing, one property, address. I'm taking one property, address, right? And here I'm declaring that thing as an array, right? And inside that I'm declaring an object, right? And here let's try to understand. And here I'm adding the flat number, and your flight number is, let's suppose, Z block 203 or 5, and then the street number, what street, right? And here you can write it. Oh, no. Okay, and write it like that, and then street number is, street name is uh, uh, Nehru. Okay, Nehru Road. Okay, now the flat society name, okay, here you pass society name like ABC. Okay, and then you are storing, let's suppose let's suppose flat number, street number, and okay, that's fine. Okay, these things are stored, right? So have you noticed that one person having the multiple addresses, right? Multiple address, like temporary address, permanent address, they have the multiple address, right? So to store all the address, I have created one address array. I have used the key here, that is address, and I have created here this square bracket, this square bracket that indicate that this is an array. This is an array. Inside that array, I have created the object. Inside the address array, we have created the object, right? Now, this is an array, so we can store the multiple object. So I will copy and paste. Let's suppose same name, I can use it here with a different address. Let's suppose 66 Gandhi Road. Let's suppose Gandhi Road, and here I can add one more thing. Let's suppose I'm adding Mumbai. What happened? Guys, one more thing, guys. I have given you the sufficient time to make the payment. So those who has not done the payment after the class, you can please make the payment to continue the class, please. Right? I have also dropped the message, but you have not replied. So please look at the message and please make the payment who has not done the payment yet. Calls from tomorrow, I will filter out this group. There are 40%, right? But I will take only that person who he has done the payment. So most probably from tomorrow you will not continue the class. So please update me and make the payment, please. So let's suppose Delhi. Okay. So Delhi I am writing here, right? So here you have created one address array, and inside the address array, what array means, you can store the multiple things. So it is an address object, address array object. Array object means Object means you can store the multiple object. You can see I have stored the multiple object. Right? I have created one address. In an address is an array, and inside the array I have stored the multiple object. Right? And what is the storing, the reason behind to store the multiple object? It could be the user can store the multiple, store the multiple things, right? If they have. So you can store the multiple thing inside one single variable. That is the address array. You can see it is an object. This is another object, right? So here you can see, yeah, same thing. Employee array. Employee array. Here I have created an array. Inside the employee array, they have stored the multiple employee. The first multiple object. This one you can see. This is the one object. And what I told you, the object means open bracket and close bracket and key and value pair. What is the syntax of object? This is the syntax. Open bracket, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and key and value pair. That is known as a object in JSON. You can see this is the JSON object. So you are creating the JSON array object here, right? So you have created one array. Inside the array, you are storing the multiple objects here. Any question, guys? After that, we can discuss the requirement. Or it's clear?
Clear.
Clear.
Clear? Now let's move to the requirement side. Okay. And before that, some basic question I am asking you regarding the interview question. The first question is this possible that inside the JSON object, can we create an array?
Yes, possible.
Inside the JSON object, can we create an array?
Possible.
Yes, we can create. You can see this is the parent JSON object. This is the parent one. And inside the parent one, I have created the array. Right? Now, the second question. Second question, is this possible? Inside the array, can we create the JSON object? Inside the array, can we create an JSON object?
Yes.
Yes.
You can see, yes, we have created the array, and inside the array, you have stored the object, which is the key value pair.
Combination. Yeah.
Right? So
Yes.
both the things are possible. Right? Now let's discuss the requirement. Guys, you can mute. And please, guys, who has not done the payment, please make the payment after this class, please. Okay. Now let's come to the requirement. If you understand the mapping, guys, you are the hero. You are the hero. If you understand the mapping, how in the real time, you can map the thing. I'm not explaining the thing as a testing perspective. You can also understand as a BA perspective, business analyst perspective, actually. Right? As a product owner perspective, how the things are, the BA are handling to the client. This thing is common for all the role. Tester also, developer also, and the BA also, and the PO also. This concept. Okay. So please, if you have any question, ask me. Do not, create the confusion. Directly, you can ask me after the end of the topic. Okay. Let's discuss. So let's suppose you assign in the project, right? So guys, one thing, tell me, every project having the different requirement, right? Some of the project following the very simple requirement. Some of the project is following the complex requirement. Some of the project following the mid-level requirement. Depends on the project to project, client to client. Agree or not?
Agree.
Yes.
Agree.
Yes.
So first let's discuss the very simple requirement. Let's suppose you get assigned in the one project and that project is very simple. You are very happy. My work is very smoothly going on. Let's discuss that requirement. Right? We will discuss all the requirement which is in the real time. Okay. So let's discuss the very simple requirement where you feel like honeymoon period, like I'm feeling very comfortable in this project. Right? Because all it because your project is simple, your requirement is simple. Agree or not? Right?
Yes.
Right, guys? So if you get some complex project, some complex requirement, some complexity is there, then you will ask the same thing. What type of project is? I'm not getting the time, to play the game, and it's make me very easy and very tough requirement. You change your words, change your sentence, right? It depends to the project to project, right? So let's discuss the very simple project requirement. Okay. So whenever you get assigned in the project, you will get the story, right? So in the story, this requirement sheet, right? They will attach the BA person or your team lead, whoever create the story, they will attach, right? The product owner, right? And in the this things are, if you are using the Jira, so all the details are maintained in the Confluence page, in the Jira Confluence page, right? Agree? Agree, guys?
Yes.
Right? So let's
Yes.
suppose they have provided the link in the story and they are asking to you go and use this requirement. Okay. Let's suppose let me clear all the things. Let's suppose the requirement is REST API, the story is REST API 1001 to get the user's data, right? And they will add the description and they will provide the link of that, right? What you will do, you will open this particular page and you will check the requirement. What is the requirement, right? You will go through the requirement, right? Now you will check there are multiple the columns are there. The first one is the root, method, types, full root, description, request body, and the response body, right? The root means here sometimes they will use project to project, they will use some other term also, like path, like root, like resource. They will use some other term also, so do not get confused. Sir, you explain me the root and in my project they are using the path or resource. So at that time do not claim me, right? So depends on to person they will use their term, right? Now here you can see the root is users. That means inside the user's resource you have to create the data, you have to perform the CRUD operation, right? The method means sometime in some of the requirement you will see verb, right? Here you will see something like path, right, or resource, right? So having the different terms, right? The method or verbs, right? Here you will see type or format, right? Here you will see full root or URL, something like URL, something like, right? Full URL or host URL, something like, okay? So let's try to understand. So resource means that this resource you have to use, which I have explained you in when I taking the make my trip example. The resource means what user want, what user is trying to do here: flight, hotels, villas, holiday, So here you can see this is the resource as per the requirement, right? The method you have to use get. So first thing, we have created the workspace. This workspace, the client will giving you the access of that. Inside that, let's suppose you are working as a fresh project. So you will create one collection. How you can create? By clicking on this plus icon and you can rename, right? After that, you will create one request. How you can create? Click on the three dot here. You can see add request or using the plus icon. Okay, you created the request. Now let me close this card and let me delete this thing. Okay, so let me add the fresh request, right? The request is get added. Now read the requirement. You have to map the thing. Verb, that is method. Method is get. Now JSON format. Yeah, that's okay. JSON format we have to use. The full root. The URL is you have to use this one, right? And you can see the resource and the path is users. So you can see which you have already used here. Already you have passed as part of this column, right? Now they will add the description that this particular request, what exactly it will do. They will provide you the detail. Actually they will give you one high level detail that get all the user data. This particular request will do if you use this request. So you don't have to do anything, right? Just read this thing for your reference. The client will add this thing because we have to know what exactly this is doing. That's why, right? This will give you the basic idea. Now request body, we have one column, the request body. If you go to the request body, it is a blank, because if you are using the get method, in the get method we are not using the any request body because we are not passing any payload to the server, right? So that's why it is a blank. That's why as per the requirement it is the blank. Now that's done, right? Now here you can see the response body. In the response body you don't have to do anything, right? This thing is provided by the server and this thing provided by the client. This request body and this thing provided by the server. Okay, now your mapping is done, right? Now what we have to do, give some proper name here so that everyone can understand what you are trying to do. So if I give get the users data, if I write and control S, you can see it here. If it is not get saved, it's so in the dot orange icon. Can you see at the top dot orange icon is there, right? That means the data is not saved. If you want to make it save, then you have to use control S, so it will get saved inside this particular collection, right? So let me use this get the users data. You have renamed this thing. So if anyone can read this, they can easily understand what you are trying to do. Get the user data. You are trying to get the users data from this server. It will connect with this server, go to the users resource and fetch the data. Whatever the data is created, you will fetch that data. So when I call, you can see it here. It will fetch all the data. You can see it here. It will fetch all the data here, right? So when you get the response, right? So the client will provide you the mapping sheet, right? This mapping sheet where they will provide you the response body, right? As a reference that when you get the response from the server, how the response will looks like. You have to map the response with this request response body, right? So you have to map that meta is coming or not. Yes, meta is there. Pagination is coming or not. Yes, pagination is coming. the total is coming or not? Yes, total is coming. So they will provide you the the response body, the format, how it looks like. Okay, so like that you have to verify the response. So that we will not discuss now, how to verify. Okay, first let's discuss how to map. Okay, so you have now successfully mapped the thing and you will get the response. So when you do the testing, then you have to verify. You can take this response as a as a reference, and you can match this actual. This is your expected, right? And this is your actual, right? You have to match this thing with this thing, right? If both are matched, then it is working fine. So that we will discuss in the coming classes. Let only focus on the mapping concept. Only mapping concept. Okay. Now,
Because
yes, ma'am. Tell me.
why here we have not mentioned JSON format while creating request?
Okay, JSON format. It's actually when you go here, it's by default. If you go here, here you can see it's by default taking here application JSON.
Okay, so in case of get method by default it will be JSON, but in case of post
Actually what happened, actually let me clear the one thing. It depends on the designing actually. So this particular service is designed in such a way that if you not pass the get, if you not pass the content type as application JSON, that is the JSON format. If you not pass the JSON format, this JSON format, so it is it will take by default, right? In some of the project, it is mandatory to pass. If you not pass, it will give you the error message. It depends on the requirement to requirement actually, right? If the developer has strict this thing, then you have to pass, so like that you have to pass. Go to the header and go here and type type and application JSON, right? And call. You can see it here. Go to the body section, you can see. So it is like optional. So if you not pass, it will by default it will take, right? That by default it will take, right? So in some of the project it is by default it will take. In some of the project it will restricted, you have to pass. Maximum project you have to pass. In maximum project, 90% project, you have to pass. Clear, madam?
yes, Vikas.
Right. Now let's discuss one more mapping sheet. After then we can end the call. Okay. This thing is done. The first mapping is done. Now let's discuss the another mapping. Another mapping is the post method, right? So you can see what is the resource here, users, and what is the URL, right? This one is the URL, and the method is the post. If you go here, let me close this thing. Okay, click on three dotted icon, add request, right? First thing, go and check your requirement. What is the method? Post. Then go and select post, right? After that, JSON, right? So you have to pass it here, the JSON, the content type. In your mind, you have the question, who is provide the header? In the requirement, they will mention you. When we come to the more advanced level, your doubt will get clear. Okay, and we have the separate session for the header. What did you mean by the header? Okay, so let's only try to understand the mapping. Okay, and here you have to pass the application this, right? Now what is the another thing? The body, sorry, the URL, right? So you have to copy this URL and we'll go here and paste it here, right? Now you can see they have added the description, create the user. Basically, this particular mapping will create the request. So you will copy this request. They will provide you the request body, right? So just copy the request body and this payload and go to the body, because in the post method you have to pass the body. You will select the body, select the raw, and pass it here. Pass it here, right? And let me remove the ID because this ID is created by the server, right? So let me give the name as a API test, and the email ID is API test@gmail.com, gender email, right? Now you can see you get the response. You will get the response. Now let me connect. Okay, it giving me the error message as a 403 because it is the secure protocol, right? So how I can use this token? So I have already, let me check it here somewhere. Oath error token. Let me use this token. Yeah, you can see. No worry, I will explain you the token. Let's try to understand only the mapping. Every topic having the separate class, because in one class I don't want to mess up the everything. Okay, here you can see data is get created, right? If you go and check the response, where it is, yeah, here you can see metadata null, as per the requirement they have provided. The client has provided this thing. Data is one object. Inside the object you have provided the value: ID, name, email, gender and status. ID, name, email, gender and status, all the things get matched. Now the value is different. Why value is different? Because you pass the different payload, the different payload here. That's why. But here the client is passing the Leotica. That's why they are getting this response, obviously. So they have just provided for your reference. Okay. So in tomorrow class we will map, or we have 5 minutes, or then we can complete one more get call. Did you have 5 minutes more?
Yes.
Okay, so let's discuss one more requirement, that is, you can see get by ID. This is the very simple requirement where you will get everything as a ready-made. Just you have to copy and paste. You will feel like my job is very comfortable, and you have sufficient time to do anything. Okay, so this is a very simple requirement. If you get lucky, then you will get this type of the mapping sheet. If you are not lucky, then you will not get, right? But it's my duty to guide you the every type of the requirement. Okay, now the third requirement. In the third requirement, again it is using get method. Before that, guys, give me the proper name of this particular post method. Can you give me some name?
Create the user.
Create the user, right? Put the name, create the user, so that everyone can understand. You can see get the user, create the user. Now create one more request, add request, and here you will go, you can see get method. Again go and select get method. Now again content type is, you can see JSON we have sent to the server. You will go here, header, pass the content type, application JSON, right? And then the URL. Very important thing, guys, try to understand, right? Now in the requirement sheet, if you see anything like that, double curly bracket, if you see anything is written inside the double curly bracket, that means that thing is a dynamic value. You don't have to directly send. So that indicating that that value is dynamic value. You have to change the value. You have to change the value. Here you can see in the requirement, if it is written double quote, not curly bracket, double curly bracket, right? So where you have to pass these things indicate that you have to pass the user ID, that is dynamic, and this particular is what is doing, get the user data using the user ID, right? So you have to pass the user ID, and what is the user ID of this particular user? 1239. I will copy it here, and I will go here and remove this particular variable, this particular dynamic thing. Let me check users here, right? Users and curly bracket and pass the value like that. If anything is written inside the double curly bracket, that means that value is dynamic. You have to find that value and pass it here. So in my case, it is the user ID. So that user ID is coming from here, right? So because I want to this user, right? So I have taken this user ID and pass it here, which is generated by the server. Okay. So you can see, you will get the detail, get the user data using the user ID. Now let me call. There is no request body because you are using the get method, right? When you call, you can see. Can you see it here? The response. You can see the response body. If you match, both the things will get matched. Right? Clear? Now in tomorrow class, we will discuss the another mapping, that is the different kind of the get and the put and patch. After that, we will discuss some more complex requirement that is like that. Give me a second. Real time example, where it is, yeah, here. This is the real time example which you will get it, where you will not get the ready-made thing, the parameter where you have to do on, you have to map the things on. Here you can see this is the real time example which we will discuss in the tomorrow class. After that, we will discuss some more complexity example. If you go to the GitHub developer API, guys, please the payment. If you have not make the payment, GitHub developer, where it is, yeah, we will discuss some more requirement, GitHub requirement. Okay, after that we will discuss some more tough requirement, that is the swagger requirement. I think you guys have heard the swagger. Why it's not opening? The swagger. Here you can see the swagger requirement. After that, we will discuss some more requirement. I have one more requirement which we will discuss. Give me a second. Okay, total we have 4 requirement which we will discuss, right? So if you mapping is clear, then you are hero. Then you are hero, guys. Okay, so that's it, guys. In tomorrow class we will continue the topic. If you have any question, then let me know. Otherwise, we can put the call in the call.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys. Have a nice day. And please make the payment, guys.
Because
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
tell
paid
me.
the fees. Could you please share the document?
Yeah, I will share the document, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys.